Hello everyone, I'm Nick from nextstepnick.com and today we're going to talk a little bit about war selection. Now first things first, can I just highlight this little peasant on the main screen? I actually laughed out loud when I first started playing this because of him. So, what is this? It's an interesting title, I saw it for free, it's actually a new title on Steam for free. Interesting game, and I thought, well, I'll give it a go, strategy game. I was expecting in-game microtransactions, I was expecting like knockoffs and things like that, but honestly, it's a really interesting take on an old formula. So, it's a top-down strategy title. You're looking at the kind of thing like Age of Empires, for example, or Age of Mythology. Very, very similar. If you've played them before, you'll understand this pretty much straight away. But, honestly, just think it's really, really good. Really enjoyed it. There's a lot of passion gone into this project, and you can see it straight away. From the animations, to the actual gameplay itself, to the character models and textures, there's just a lot of content here, and to be honest, I was kind of blown away by that. I was blown away by just how much there is in the game right now, and how much there is being produced and worked on right now. So what you're basically doing is you're collecting your resources like you used to in Age of Empires, those kind of games. You're collecting like your meat or your food, and also your wood, and later on it'll also be like stone and other resources as well. It is in development, so there are a few bugs here and there, but considering it's being given away free at the moment to actually play and just test and leave your own feedback, I think that's fine. I think it's great. Animation-wise, as you can see, really nice, really smooth. I like the actual gameplay itself. I apologise if the camera movement is a little bit jerky here. It was running absolutely fine, it's just that it's very reactive, especially when you're zoomed in here. I'm just using WASD to scroll around as I'm building, and it gets a bit jerky, to be honest, if you're zoomed in. But I really wanted to highlight the level of detail on these characters, and also the movement on them, the animation that's been put into these characters, to really make them feel like they're actually alive, you know, they're interesting. It reminds me of a title that I used to adore. I mean, personally speaking, I put so many hours into Age of Empires, Age of Mythology, Empire Earth was another one. To be honest, as bad as it sounds, I used to basically just rush for the max technology, and then I used to take a lot of pleasure as a kid having robots destroying people in the Stone Age. It was fun. That was what I did. Skirmishes were fun. And this allows you to do that. I mean, there's quite a lot in regard to technology and growth, but it takes it on a completely different direction that I really, really like. So, you don't just upgrade your people in regard to ages. You don't just say, okay, we're going from the Stone Age to the Iron Age to the Bronze Age. Instead, you actually upgrade in regard to culture. So, say for example, at the moment we're in the Stone Age, I'm building a temple, which is like a requirement to upgrade next. I think it's a temple. And then what will happen is I can then pick specifically where I want to go in regard to my culture. So I can say, okay, I'm going to be an Eastern culture. I'm going to work on stuff like Japan and China. I'm going to move into that whole kind of culture, that kind of building, those kind of units. Or I could go a completely different direction and say, right, I'm going to go into Europe. Specifically, I'm going to go into Western Europe. And you can basically turn that into a specific area or a specific place. You can break that down from that original choice. You can say, okay, I'm going to go with Asia. But then you'll be able to pick between, well, South or West Asia, or East or West Asia. Then from there you can say, well, what kingdom do you want to go towards? Do you want to work towards Korea? Do you want to make things in regard to Korean heritage? Or do you want to go towards Japan? Do you want to go towards more Thailand? Or do you want to go on the other sort of direction and start working into China? There's a lot of really interesting customization and modification here. And it does make a difference. I mean, a lot of them are still in development at the moment. So, for example, at the moment you can only pick between Europe and Asia, but there is a lot in development in regard to different places and different areas. You can even go with more of a generic culture and have a bit of an overview. So you'll see here I've gone with Asia, and all of a sudden I've got this palace, and everything will start to represent that culture. So I'll upgrade these buildings in a minute to show you what they look like as well. But you can upgrade and slowly tailor your empire to be exactly what you want it to be. And I really like that. I feel like there's a lot of distance, there's a lot of growth here, there's a lot of things you can do. It's just a really fun game. You can multi-select these buildings. At this point, I didn't realise that. It is literally a case of double-clicking, but to be honest, I was just quite enjoying the game in general. I was just enjoying playing. But there's a lot here to enjoy. There's a lot to love. It's the same thing with the actual characters themselves, the actual people you can build. There is a lot of character in them, and there's a lot of variation. I mean, I went from mace swingers and club-wielding characters all the way up to stuff like what I'm building there, which is like a dragon turret that will shoot out these paper dragons that then explode. It's really, really cool. There's a lot of stuff to love here, and for a game that's just being developed now by a small team, great, absolutely brilliant. I'm so happy to see something like this, especially considering that I do miss the strategy genre. I miss this kind of genre, I miss this kind of game. There is a hole in the market right now for this kind of thing, and I would happily pay for it, and I would happily play it if it was a paid for game. There's a lot of different modes. So at the start, I originally went with free for all because I thought there'd be people playing online. There's not really that many people, but apparently you can have up to 30 people on that. And there's quite a lot of AI opponents at the moment on this map. I mean, there are little gripes like that, like the AI needs upgrading, for example. They're not that great, they don't do a lot. There's stuff like the multiplayer which could be refined a little bit. But to be honest, for a game that's literally just become available for people to play and just to play around with it as on a free basis before it becomes something fully fleshed out, again, I'm fine with that. I think this is exactly the way to approach a project like this, to give it away to people, to test how much they enjoy it, what they want to see, how they want to utilise the game, and what kind of things they would like to have added in. And it's a great way as well of just getting people to test the game for you. Sure, there are, like I say, a few bugs, there's a few issues with AI, but it's a very enjoyable experience. I mean, this is just sandbox. You'll notice in the top right there's a button that says get resources. I didn't realise what that meant, and I rolled my eyes and thought, oh, okay, this is going to be like a microtransaction thing or something like that. No, it's just a little cheat on sandbox mode. It immediately gave me like unlimited resources on everything, so I could just build a bit more. I could actually flesh things out and just play around a bit. And yeah, it was good. Really, really good. Really enjoyed it. I played it for far longer than I thought I was going to, just because I enjoyed it so much. I mean, just like with this, like with the turrets that turn into balloons, it's just a lovely little touch. And when you look at the animation there and the balloons just moving backwards and forwards and the actual upgrade itself, there's a lot of love and passion having gone into this. And I miss games like this. I miss these kind of titles. I'm a big fan of stuff like Empire Earth. I'm a big fan of stuff, to be honest, like the Command & Conquer series. I'm looking forward to the remakes, but at the same time, it's lovely to see a studio going above and beyond to make something because they'd like to make it, if you know what I mean. There's so many games now that I feel are made because, you know, we can chase funding here. You know, this is popular right now. This is currently the in thing. This is the thing everyone's buying. But having a game that's made just for enjoyment, purely because you think there's a market for this, you want to make something new that's interesting and you think your fans will like, you think it will do well with an audience that is there, great. Absolutely great. I mean, we saw the same thing with the horror genre, you know, oh, there's no market for this. And then when things started coming out and succeeding, all of a sudden the AAA studios are interested. And that's what I think is so great about indie titles and smaller titles, and why I think they deserve this shout out. They deserve this amount of praise because, yeah, you may have a few errors in the game, there may be a few things that you can improve on, but you are revolutionising the industry by changing things. And I know that sounds very... well, you know, it sounds a little bit ironic when we're looking at a title that basically is trying to do something that we saw years ago. But if you can take something as an influence and then create a new title that emulates the experience in a good way, you use that original experience as a launch pad rather than as something to just basically sort of wallow in. It's not just a recreation of something I've seen before. You've taken that as a launch pad, you've added new things, put in a lot more in regard to customization and growth of civilizations, and you've done something that makes an original title better. And I like it. I will definitely get behind something like that, and I'll definitely support it. I mean, at the moment, this is available, like I say, on Steam for free. You can download it, and basically the premise is you've got a load of different modes at the moment, but a lot's being added on a regular basis from what I can see. But the basic premise, you'll see I noticed how to multiple click at this point, which, yeah, did help out. But you'll see that there's quite a lot of stuff that's still being added in over time. The basic premise is, you know, you can, if you're on sandbox, you're just basically wiping out other enemies and just having a bit of a play, seeing what you think of the system. Once you've built a world wonder, which is basically upgrading your town hall to a certain point, a timer will start, and that's when, basically, if no one destroys it in that time period, you automatically win. I'd like to see the enemies a bit more aggressive in regard to that. I'd like to see them really start coming for you once that wonder is built. But at the same time, there are things I'd like to see change, but I don't mind waiting too much. I don't mind, as long as this game is regularly updated and is transparent to the fans, I don't mind. And I think that's the takeaway for developers. If anyone does watch this, well, welcome if you do, but if you make a game and it takes time, people will be fine with that, as long as you're transparent, as long as you let them know what you're doing, as long as you're reasonable in regard to your pricing, and as long as you have a slow but steady time frame where you say, okay, this is vaguely around the time we'd like to release, this is our main aim, this is what we're working on this week, your fans will support you. It's only when you go dark, it's only when you rush to release something that's broken, it's only when you go out of your way to charge as much money as you can at the initial periods, that's when you lose fans. But if you do something like this, I think, yeah, you've gained a fan in me, and I'm sure other people that play this will feel the same way. So, in regard to things that could change, I mean, just looking at the future, looking at things that could be added in, like I say, I'd like to see the AI improved, I'd like to see them a little bit more aggressive, a little bit smarter, maybe an option to increase their sort of difficulty. I'd like to see a lot more in regard to the content, obviously, that's currently being developed, that would be nice. And I'd like to see just some generic little changes in regard to quality of life. So, for example, at the moment it's player lose, but it would be a lot better to say something like, you know, X civilization or player civilization has been defeated. It's little things like that, to be honest. For the most part, though, very happy with the experience. I think the attack animations in regard to when you see players attacking other players, so when you use like your samurai at one point, I'm fighting against a mammoth. I'll tell you now, spoilers, we don't win. They could be refined a little bit more, just because they tend to look like they're flailing a bit, and some of the enemies do that. You know, some of the characters and enemies do flail a bit rather than attack. They don't have specific attack animations, it's more of a flail. In regard to the gun mechanics as well, sometimes things will get a little bit jerky. So say, for example, you've just seen me drive past with a couple of motorbikes there. The motorbikes, at one point I was being attacked by a boar, and they refused to shoot it, and I don't know why that is. I had to like come from a different direction and really sort of mess around a bit for them to be able to kill it. But at the same time, like I say, it's only really small gripes, to be honest. Sometimes the tech tree will become a little bit sticky. You'll start, you know, making something and the time will be a little bit too long. So especially on the more powerful units, which I understand, but that's like a trial and error situation really, isn't it? It's looking at how effective something is compared to how long it takes to build. And I can understand why it does take longer, because it, you know, stops people from basically rushing each other, which is fine. It's one of those games, I think, you'll see that bit with the boar now actually. It's one of those bits where I think there's a lot going on that they've done really, really well here. So I don't mind too much. I don't mind too much in regard to waiting. I don't mind about these problems taking their time, because they're not game breakers. And if you're not charging anything and you've made a really good experience already, yeah, I trust you. I mean, it's like that. We've just seen a character die, and so now crows have started to land on them, and it's such a great little choice. It's such a great little detail that really adds life to the world. And that's the thing I like about this game, is that, yeah, I think I'd chase after a saber-toothed tiger and gun this down now. I think the thing is just a monster, but I think the thing is that there is so much in regard to the world itself and options in regard to building and civilization already that I'm more than happy to wait. Thoroughly enjoyed this, thoroughly enjoyed it from start to finish. If you can get the time to play it, I'd definitely recommend it. You can pick it up on Steam right now, completely for free, War Selection. Make sure you leave a comment just so the dev knows what to work on. But other than that, really, really good game, really, really fun, return to form for the genre. Something that I've always loved, so really happy to see it. Great work, and definitely, if you can, like I say, check it out. Other than that though guys, I'd just like to thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe if you have enjoyed this video. It's only a small thing, but it really helps out in regard to making content. Other than that though, head over to nextstepnick.com if you do want to check out any of the latest news, reviews or articles, and hopefully I'll see you again very soon. Thank you very much, and goodbye.